Tonight, we travel back through the mists of time to the ancient realm of Camelot, to walk alongside King Arthur under the silent stars. Come in from the night, leave the noise of the world outside the heavy oak doors. You are safe here in the library. Nothing can touch you now, only the warmth of the fire. If you wish to hold a return ticket to this sanctuary for another night, simply invite yourself to return by subscribing. Take your place by the hearth. Now, settle in. The volume for tonight is already waiting on the reading desk, heavy, bound in deep crimson velvet and gold leaf, smelling faintly of rain and ancient stone. Let us gently lift the cover. As the candle flickers, our story begins. Close your eyes and let the darkness of the room wrap around you like a heavy velvet cloak. Breathe in slowly and imagine the air turning crisp and cold, carrying the sharp, stinging scent of salt and ancient brine. We are traveling back, far back, to a time when the land was wild and then the boundary between the earth and the sea was a battleground of elements. We stand now on the jagged edge of the world, on the southwestern tip of the island that would one day be known as Britain. Here, the peninsula of Cornwall stretches out into the vast, churning Atlantic like a claw seeking to grasp the horizon. Can you feel the wind? It is not a gentle breeze here. It is a living thing, a relentless force that has traveled thousands of miles across the open ocean without obstruction, gathering strength and moisture until it slams into the obsidian cliffs of Tintagel. Listen to the sound it makes. It is a low, mournful howl, a sound that vibrates in the hollow of your chest. It whips around the stone, tearing at the heather and the gorse that cling desperately to the thin soil. If you were standing there now, you would have to lean into it, trusting the wind to hold your weight, feeling the damp chill penetrate your woolen layers, seeking the warmth of your skin. Below us, a sheer drop into the churning cauldron of the sea. The water here is not blue. It is the color of bruised slate, dark and ominous, capped with frothing white foam that glows continuously in the twilight. Listen to the rhythm. It is a slow, thunderous heartbeat. Crash, silence, the hiss of retreating water over polished pebbles. And then again. Crash. The earth itself seems to shudder with every impact. These waves have been carving this coastline since the beginning of time, eating away at the rock, creating caves and hollows where the water echoes and booms like a trapped beast. The air is thick with moisture. It is a heavy mist that clings to your eyelashes and slicks your hair against your forehead. Taste it on your lips. It is pure salt, sharp metallic. This is a place of raw, unbridled power, where nature reigns supreme and humanity feels very small, very fragile. The cliffs rise up like jagged teeth, black silhouettes against a sky that is a bruised purple and gray, heavy with unshed rain. There is no sunlight here, only the filtered, watery gray light of a storm that never truly ends. It is a place of solitude, a place where secrets can be buried deep beneath the roar of the surf. And yet, clinging to this precipice, defying the wind and the sea, there is structure. Look closely through the driving mist. Rising from the headland, indistinguishable at first from the living rock, are the walls of a fortress. This is Tintagel. It does not look like the fairy tale castles of later romances, with soaring spires and delicate flags fluttering in the breeze. No, this is a fortress built for survival. It is low and squat, hunkered down against the gale. The stones are massive, rough-hewn blocks of granite, pulled from the earth and piled high by hands that knew the value of protection. Run your mental hand over these walls. They are cold, freezing to the touch and rough as skin of an ancient dragon. Moss and lichen have claimed the crevices, soft, damp patches of green and bright orange that drink in the sea spray. The mortar is old, gritty, holding the stones together against the centuries. These walls were built to keep the world out. They speak of fear, and they speak of safety. Inside these thick barriers, the roar of the wind is baffled, turned from a scream into a dull, distant moan. Imagine walking through the narrow gatehouse. The archway is low, forcing you to bow your head, a sign of submission to the stone. As you pass through, the air changes. It becomes stiller, though no less cold. The smell of the sea is joined by other scents. The smoke of wood fires, acrid and comforting, the smell of wet wool and unwashed bodies, the scent of roasting meat and old leather. You are in the courtyard now, a muddy expanse where the puddles reflect the torchlight. The torches are sputtering in the damp air. They are soaked in pitch and animal fat, casting a thick, black smoke that swirls up to join the clouds. The light they give is orange and fitful, creating dancing shadows that stretch and warp against the walls. It creates a sense of unease, as if the shadows themselves are watching, listening. Every corner of this castle is a hiding place. The architecture is a labyrinth of stone corridors, narrow stairwells spiraling down into the dark, and heavy oak doors bound with iron that has long since rusted in the salt air. It is safe here, or as safe as one can be in such a wild time. The cliffs act as a natural wall, a drop that no army could scale. The narrow land bridge that connects the castle to the mainland is a treacherous path, easily defended by a handful of men. This is a place paranoia, a sanctuary for those who have enemies. And on this particular night, the need for sanctuary is greater than ever. The castle feels tight tense, like a bowstring to its breaking point. Let us move deeper inside, away from the courtyard, into the heart of the keep. The walls here are covered in heavy tapestries, woven wool dyed in deep reds and greens, meant to keep out the drafts that seep through the arrow slits. They flutter slightly, breathing with the building. The floor is covered in rushes, dried mixed with herbs like lavender and myrrh to mask the damp smell of the stone. They crunch softly underfoot, a hushed sound that is swallowed by the heavy silence of the corridor. We are approaching a chamber at the very end of the hall. The door is closed, guarded by men who stand like statues, their hands resting on the pommels of their swords. They do not speak. They do not look at each other. They only stare into the gloom, their eyes reflecting the torchlight. Behind that door, history is holding its breath. Inside the chamber, the air is warm, almost stiflingly so. A great fire roars in the hearth, logs of oak and ash consumed by flames that lick high up the soot-stained chimney. The crackle and pop of the wood is the only loud sound in the room. The light is golden and soft, bathing everything in a glow that feels sacred, intimate. In the center of the room is a bed, heavy with furs and blankets. But our focus is not on the bed. It is on a small bundle being held in the arms of a woman near the fire. She is rocking gently, a rhythmic motion that mimics the sway of the sea outside. The bundle is wrapped in layers of white linen and soft wool, a cocoon of warmth. Inside this bundle, a boy. He is tiny, fragile, his skin flushed pink from the heat of the fire. He does not cry. He is silent, his eyes squeezed shut against the light, his small hands curled into tight fists. This is the night of the legend's birth. But it is not a moment of fanfare. There are no trumpets sounding from the battlements, no heralds riding out to proclaim the news to the kingdom. There is only fear and secrecy. The child is a danger. His very existence is a threat to the fragile peace, a spark that could ignite a war. He must be hidden. He must be spirited away before the world knows he is here. Feel the tension in the room. It is a palpable weight, pressing down on the shoulders of those present. A tall figure stands in the shadows, away from the firelight. His face is hidden by a hood, but his presence fills the room. His robes are dark, the color of the storm clouds outside. He smells of old parchment, of dried herbs, and of the ozone smell that comes before a lightning strike. He is waiting. The woman holding the child weeps silently. You can see the tear king through the dust on her cheeks, catching the firelight like falling diamonds. She kisses the forehead of the infant, a lingering, desperate touch, her skin against his. The softness of a mother's love against the harsh reality of destiny. She whispers a name, softly that it is lost in the crackle of the fire. Arthur. The hooded figure steps forward. The movement is fluid, silent. He extends his arms. They are long, his hands pale and scarred. The transfer is momentous, the weight of a kingdom passing from one set of arms to another. The child stirs but does not wake. He is already learning the lesson of his life. Silence is survival. The figure turns away from the warmth of the fire, moving towards a side door that leads not to the main hall, but to the shadows. He is taking the child out into the storm. Imagine the transition, leaving the golden, smoky warmth of the chamber and stepping into the stone cold of the stairwell. The air immediately drops in temperature. It bites at the exposed skin. The hooded man pulls his cloak tighter around the bundle, shielding the infant from the draft. He moves quickly, descending the spiral stairs. The stone steps are worn smooth in the center by generations of feet. He knows every turn, every loose stone. Down towards the postern gate, a small, hidden exit that opens out onto the cliff face. As the heavy wooden door creaks open, the sound of the ocean returns with full force. It is deafening now. The wind shrieks, tearing at the man's cloak, trying to snatch the burden from his arms. But he holds tight. He steps out into the night. The rain has started to fall, icy, stinging drops that mix with the salt spray. It is a baptism of water and wind. The path ahead is narrow, a ribbon of mud winding down the side of the cliff to the cove below. It is treacherous in the dark, lit only by the occasional flash of lightning that illuminates the whitecaps of the waves far below. But the man does not falter. He walks with a surety that defies the elements. He is carrying the future, and the future cannot be allowed to fall. Down in the cove, the water is black and oily. A small boat waits, bobbing violently on the swell. It is a fragile thing of wood and tar, utterly insufficient against the might of the ocean, but it is the only way. The child must be taken across the water, away from the castle, away from his name, away from his birthright. He must disappear into the mist, to be raised in obscurity until the time is right. The man climbs into the boat. He settles the bundle under the shelter of the stern, covering it with oilskins to keep out the wet. The baby sleeps on, rocked now by the violent motion of the sea. The oars dip into the water, cutting through the surface with a splash that is the roar of the waves. The boat pulls away from the shore, moving out into the darkness. Looking back, the castle of Tintagel is just a shadow against the sky, a jagged tooth of rock where a single light flickers in a high window and then goes out. The connection is broken. The child is no longer a prince in a fortress. He is a whisper in the wind, a secret carried by the tide. Feel the cold of the spray on your face as the boat cuts through the waves. Taste the salt. Hear the creak of the wood and the groan of the oarlocks. The world is vast and dark and indifferent, but in that small wooden shell a heart beats, ba-bum, ba-bum, strong and steady. The storm rages, the wind howls, and the sea crashes against the cliffs with the force of a hammer. But the child sleeps, safe for now, hidden in the chaos, wrapped in the cloak of the night, drifting towards a destiny that will one day burn brighter than any fire in the great hall of Tintagel. The darkness swallowed completely. There is nothing left but the sound, the relentless, eternal sound of the sea, washing away the footprints on the shore, washing away the memory of this night, leaving only the legend to grow in the silence. The air here is different from the salt-stung winds of Tintagel. We have traveled forward in time and inland to a place where the earth breathes a different kind of heaviness. Welcome to London. But this is not the city of glass and steel, you know. This is a city of wood and stone, huddled low against the grey sky, a collection of fires burning in the damp heart of winter. Close your eyes and breathe in the fog. It is thick here, a living presence that wraps around the timber-framed houses and the narrow, muddy streets. It tastes of wood smoke, heavy and resinous, of the river Thames moving slowly nearby, carrying the scent of wet clay and decaying leaves. It is a morning that refuses to wake up, a twilight that lingers long past dawn. The mist dampens every sound, turning the bustling city into a place of ghosts and whispers. Footsteps are muffled thuds on the packed earth. Voices are swallowed before they can travel far. We find ourselves in a churchyard. It is a quiet sanctuary amidst the growing town. The grass here is long and lush, bending under the weight of the dew that has frozen into a delicate silver frost. The ancient yew trees stand like sentinels, their dark and dripping moisture on headstones below. Plip, 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 a rhythmic counting of the seconds. In the center of this churchyard, rising from the frost-covered earth, is a stone. It is not an ordinary rock. It is a block of marble, perhaps, or granite, smoothed not by tools, but by time and the touch of the elements. It is cold, radiating a chill that seeps through the soles of your boots. Run your mind over its surface. It is slick with dampness, patched with velvet moss that glows emerald green in the diffuse light. It smells of deep earth, of roots and soil that has never seen the sun. And resting upon this stone, as if it grew there, is an anvil of steel. It is dark, pitted with the marks of weather, heavy and unyielding. It looks like a beast sleeping in the mist. But the true wonder is what pierces through it. A sword, a naked blade of magnificent craftsmanship, driven straight through the steel anvil and deep into the stone beneath. Look at the hilt. It is wrapped in leather that has darkened with age, bound with gold wire that gleams faintly, catching the little light that filters through the fog. The pommel is a sphere of crystal, or perhaps polished glass, clouded now by the breath of the morning. The blade itself, where it enters the anvil, is bright and terrifyingly sharp. It does not rust. While the anvil is pitted and the stone is mossy, the sword remains pristine, a sliver of starlight trapped in solid matter. Written in letters of gold around the base of the stone are words: "Whoso pulleth out this sword of this stone and anvil is rightwise king born of all England." The letters are elegant, flowing, but they carry the weight of an absolute law. They are a promise and a challenge. The churchyard is not empty for long. The mist shifts, swirling as figures emerge from the gloom. Can you hear them? The heavy, rhythmic clanking of armor, the creak of leather saddles, the snort of horses, their breath plumping like dragon smoke in the cold air. The knights have come. They are men of iron and muscle, men who have spent their lives training for war. They smell of oiled mail, of horsehair and determination. Watch the first one approach. He is a giant of a man, his shoulders broad enough to block out the view of the church behind him. He steps up to the stone, his boots crunching loudly on the frozen grass. He removes his gauntlets, slapping the heavy leather gloves against thigh. His hands are rough, scarred from years of gripping sword, hilts, and reins. He rubs them together, generating heat, preparing for the task. He steps onto the stone. He reaches out. His hand closes around the hilt of the sword. Pause here. Feel the texture of that grip. The leather is cold against his warm skin. He takes a breath, holding it deep in his chest, his ribcage expanding against his breastplate. And then he pulls. Listen to the sound of strain. It is a low grunt that starts in the belly. His boots scrape against the stone, seeking purchase. The leather of his jerkin creaks, stretching tight across his back. You can see the tendons in his neck standing out like cords of rope. His face turns red, the blood rushing to the surface. He pulls with the strength that could shatter a shield, with it the power that could unhorse a rival. But the sword does not move, it does not shudder. It does not slide even a fraction of an inch. It is as if the blade and the anvil are one single piece of metal, fused together in the heart of a volcano. The metal is silent. It is indifferent to his strength. It rejects him not with violence, but with a total, absolute stillness. He releases the hilt, gasping for air, his breath coming in ragged white clouds. He steps back, shaking his hands, looking at the sword with a mixture of confusion and anger. The failure hangs in the air, heavy and embarrassing. Another knight steps forward, and another. The scene repeats itself, a ritual of futility. You can hear the sounds of their exertion layering over one another, the scuff of boots, the straining of sinew, the curse words whispered under breath. The smell of frustration begins to permeate the air, sour and sharp, mixing with the wood smoke. The anvil remains impassive. The sword remains fixed. It is a test that cannot be cheated, a lock that has no key but destiny. The crowd that has gathered watches in silence. The mood is somber. The fog seems to press in closer, dampening their hopes. If the strongest among them cannot move the blade, who can? The stone stands cold and victorious, holding its prize tight. And then the moment shifts. The heavy, aggressive energy of the knights begins to dissipate as they turn away, defeated, to attend the tournament. The churchyard grows quiet again. The fog reclaims the space. Into this quiet steps a boy. He is not clad in heavy armor. He wears a simple tunic, a cloak that has seen better days, and boots that are worn at the heels. Young, his face unlined by the horrors of war. He is not here for glory. He is here because he has forgotten a sword for his brother, Kay, and in his haste he sees this one standing available in the churchyard. Watch him move. He does not stump. He moves with a natural grace, light on his feet, disturbing the grass only slightly. He does not look around for an audience. He does not puff out his chest or prepare his muscles. He simply walks up to the stone. The atmosphere changes instantly, the winds to hold its breath. The fog stills. The very birds in the yew trees stop their rustling. It is as if the world has paused, waiting for this specific heartbeat in time. Arthur steps onto the stone. He reaches out his hand. His fingers are long and slender, not yet thickened by years of war, though they are calloused from hard work. He looks at the hilt. It seems to glow slightly brighter as he approaches, a hum of recognition that only the wind can hear. He wraps his fingers around the leather grip. Imagine the sensation. It fits. It is not too thick, nor too thin. The ridges of the leather align perfectly with the curve of his palm. It does not feel cold to him. It feels warm, vibrant, alive. It pulses with a gentle energy, like holding the hand of a friend. There is a sense of coming home, of two halves of a whole finally meeting. He does not brace himself. He does not plant his feet or grit his teeth. He simply lifts his arm. Now listen closely. This is the sound of destiny. It is not a scrape. It is not a grind. It is a song. Schening. A pure, high-pitched whisper of steel against steel. It is the sound of silk sliding over glass. It is the sound of a perfect note played on a silver flute. The friction that held the blade for the other simply vanishes. The molecules of the metal seem to part way, bowing in reverence to their master. The sword slides out of the anvil with a smooth motion. It is effortless. It is lighter than air. It moves as if it wants to be free, as if it is leaping into his hand. One moment it is buried deep in the iron. The next It is lofted high towards the grey sky. The ringing sound of the metal leaving the anvil hangs in the air, vibrating, a bell tone that resonates in your teeth and in your bones. It clears the fog for a brief second, a circle of clarity around the boy and the stone. Arthur stands there, the great sword held easily in one hand. He looks at it, catches the diffuse light and scatters it, shining with an inner illumination. It is a thing of terrible beauty, balanced perfectly, a razor's edge that divides the past from the future. The silence that follows is profound. It is not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of awe. The few who remained, the squire who watched from the gate, the priest sweeping the steps, they stop, they stare. They have witnessed the impossible made simple. There is no struggle here, no sweat, no straining leather, just the quiet truth of the right hand finding the right tool. The smell of the morning seems fresher now, the wood smoke less choking, replaced by the clean, sharp scent of ozone and iron. Arthur lowers the sword, the tip hovering just inches above the grass. He looks around, his eyes wide, unaware that it's just altered the course of history. He thinks he has merely found a borrowed blade. But the stone knows, the anvil knows, and the wind, whispering through the yew trees, carries the name that will echo for 1,000 years. The king has come. The wait is over. The metal is warm in his hand, and the world has changed forever. Let us leave the damp earth of the churchyard behind. Let us rise, floating upwards like the morning mist, drifting away from the grey confusion of the old world. We are traveling to a place where the air is clearer, where the sunlight strikes the earth with a deliberate, golden purpose. Close your eyes and feel the ground beneath you change. It is no longer the mud of the battlefield or the moss of the forest. It is solid bedrock. We are standing on the crest of a great hill, a high plateau that overlooks the sprawling green tapestry of the realm. Before the first stone was laid, there was the vision. Imagine it hanging in the air, a shimmering blueprint of the mind. The world below was a place of chaos, of petty wars and shifting borders, a place where safety was a fleeting shadow. But here, on this windswept height, a dream began to take shape. It was a dream of order, a dream of symmetry. A dream of city that would be a beacon, a white star fixed in the firmament of the land. This is the seed of Camelot. Breathe in the air up here. It is thin and pure. It smells of the wind that has traveled over miles of untouched grass, carrying the scent of clover and wild thyme. It is a place closest to the sky, a place where a man might stand and feel that he is halfway to heaven. The vision was not just of a fortress to keep enemies out, but of a sanctuary to keep peace within. It was to be a crown of stone upon the brow of the hill. White towers reaching catch the first light of dawn and the last blush of sunset. A place where the walls were not cages, but embraces. Now listen. The silence of the hill is broken, not the clash of swords, but by a new rhythm. A rhythm of creation. It begins slowly, a solitary sound echoing off the valley walls. Clink, clink. It is the sound of metal kissing stone. The masons have arrived. They are the sculptors of this dream. Men with hands like leather and eyes can see the hidden lines within the rock. Watch them at work in the quarry at the base of the hill. The dust hangs in the air, a fine, white powder that coats their skin and turns their eyelashes into frost. It smells of crushed flint and dry earth, a chalky, mineral scent that coats the back of your throat. They work with a patience that defies time. They do not rush. Each strike of the chisel is calculated, precise. Listen to the friction, the scrape of the iron tool against the granite. It is a gritty sound, a vibration that travels up the arm and into the shoulder. They are liberating the blocks of stone from the earth, cutting them into perfect squares, perfect rectangles. These are not jagged rocks piled high. These are dressed stones, smoothed and polished until they shine. Move closer to the rising walls. Can you smell the mortar? It is a pungent, wet smell, a mixture of lime, sand, and water. It is cool and sticky. Listen to the sound of the trowel. Slap, scrape, slap. The wet mixture is spread over the stone, settling into the pores. Then the heavy thud as the next block is lowered into place. Thump. It settles. It bonds. The wall grows inch by inch, foot by foot. It is a slow, hypnotic process, a vertical puzzle being solved by sweat and geometry. The stone is cool to the touch, retaining the chill of the quarry even under the midday sun. But run your hand over it, and you will feel the heat of the friction where the chisel has been. It is a living thing, this wall. It hums with the energy of the men who build it, and weaving through the percussion of the stone is another sound, the song of the wood. The carpenters are here, masters of the forest. The air around them is sweet and fragrant, filled with the rich, intoxicating perfume of fresh timber. Oak, pine, the smells are distinct, a bouquet of the wild woods brought into the service of the king. Listen to the saw. It is a rhythmic, breathing sound. Zst, zset, back and forth, back and forth. The metal teeth bite into the grain, releasing a shower of golden dust that dances in the sunbeams. The sawdust covers the ground like soft, fragrant snow. Step on it in your mind. It is soft, yielding, silencing your footsteps. Watch the plane as it glides over a beam of oak. It produces a long, curling ribbon of wood, a perfect spiral that falls to the floor with a whisper. The wood beneath is revealed, smooth as glass, warm and honey-colored. The carpenters run their hands over it, checking for imperfections, their palms slide over the surface with a gentle, swishing sound. They are building the skeleton of the city, the roof beams that will span the great halls, the heavy doors that will guard the secrets of the court, the tables where legends will be written. There is a harmony here. The clink of the chisel and the hiss of the saw create a symphony of construction. It is the sound of civilization being hammered out of the wilderness. Voice call out, not in anger, but in coordination. Have, steady, hold. The sounds of ropes straining, of pulleys creaking under heavy loads. It is a bustling, productive noise, a blanket of sound that wraps the hill in a feeling of purpose. There is no destruction here, only becoming. As the weeks turn into months and months into years, the shell becomes a home. Let us walk through the finished gates, passing under the shadow of the great archway, and enter the heart of the dream. We are entering the great hall. The transition is immediate. The bright, expansive light of the outdoors is replaced by a dim, majestic gloom. The air here is still. It has a weight to it, a solemnity. It is cool, but not cold. The thick stone walls hold the temperature of the earth, insulating the hall from the changing seasons. Your footsteps echoing stones. Clack, clack. The sound travels up, high up, into the vaulted ceiling where the shadows gather among the rafters. The spaced, cavernous, designed to make a man feel small, yet part of something infinite. It smells of beeswax, used to polish the wood and the stone. It smells of dried herbs, meadowsweet, and lavender, strewn on the floor among the rushes to sweeten the air. But the true center of this universe is the hearth. Walk towards it. It is not a mere fireplace. It is a cavern of flame, a stone mouth wide enough to roast an ox whole. A fire burns there, not a wild, destructive blaze, but a contained, domestic sun. Huge logs of seasoned oak are stacked in a pyramid, their bark glowing red as the heat consumes them. Listen to the fire. It is the heartbeat of the castle. It crackles and pops, sending showers of orange sparks drifting up the chimney like reversed rain. Snap. The sap boils within the wood, singing its final song. The fire creates a low, constant roar, a white noise that underpins every conversation in the hall. It is a sound that invites sleep, invites storytelling, invites the lowering of defenses. Feel the warmth on your face as you approach. It flushes your skin, melting away the chill of the stone corridors. The light from the fire is living gold. It dances across the room, chasing the shadows into the corners. It catches the threads of the tapestries hanging on the walls, making the embroidered dragons and knights seem to move and breathe. It reflects off the polished shields mounted on the pillars, creating pools of light in the gloom. This hall is designed for gathering. You can almost hear the phantom sounds of the future. The clatter of pewter plates on wood, the splashing of wine into goblets, the low murmur of 100 voices speaking in hushed tones, the strum of a harp, its notes floating like dust motes in the warm air. But for now it is quiet, just the fire and the stone. The architects have done their work. They have taken the raw, chaotic elements of the earth, the jagged rock, the wild tree, the burning flame, and they have tamed them. They have bound them together with mortar and craft to create a womb of safety. Stand in the center of the hall and look up. The roof beams interlace like the fingers of giant hands clasped in prayer. They hold up the Camelot. It is not just a building. It is a promise made in stone, a promise that here, in this circle of light, the darkness of the world can be held at bay. Here, wisdom will be sheltered. Here, honor will have a roof over its head. The smell of wood smoke fills the hall, a scent that speaks of home, of survival, and of the enduring spark of civilization in a cold, vast world. The castle waits. It breathes. It is ready for its king. Come with me now into the center of the great hall. The fire we were earlier is still burning, a low and steady rumble in the background. Our attention moves away from the hearth. We move to the very middle of the room, where the shadows are held at bay by a different kind of light. Here, Resting on the flagstones sits a masterpiece of nature and craft. Here sits the table. To call it furniture is to misunderstand its nature. It is a landscape. It is a vast, wooden horizon. Walk up to the edge of it. It stands waist high, solid and immovable. It is made from oak, but not just any oak. This wood came from a tree that was old when the Romans marched on these roads. A tree that had drunk the rain of 1,000 storms and soaked up the sunlight of 1,000 summers. You can feel that history radiating from it. Reach out your hand. Place your palm flat against the surface. It is cool, but beneath the coolness there is a warmth, a stored energy. The wood is not dead. The surface is polished to a glass-like sheen. It is smooth, impossibly smooth. There is no splinter, no rough patch, no ridge to catch your finger. It feels like satin stretched over stone. Move your fingers in a slow circle. You can feel the grain, the subtle rise and fall of the wood's natural texture, preserved under layers of beeswax and oil. Smell it. Lean in close. It smells of the deep forest, earthy and rich. But layered over that is the sweet, cloying scent of the polish, a mixture of linseed and beeswax that has been rubbed into the grain hour after hour, day after day. It is a golden scent, a smell of care and preservation. The color is deep, a rich, dark honey that turns to amber in the firelight. As you walk around the perimeter, the light shifts across the surface. Looks like a pool of dark water, reflecting the dancing flames of the hearth and the high beams of the ceiling. But the most important thing is the shape. It is a perfect circle. There are no corners. There is no head of the table. There is no foot. Run your hand along the edge. It curves away from you, endless. It is geometry of equality. In a world of sharp edges, of hierarchies, of kings looking down on subjects, this circle is a radical idea carved in wood. It says that everyone who sits here is equal. Everyone who places their hands on this wood shares the same weight, the same distance from the center. The table is vast. It is wide enough to seat 100 men and more. It dominates the room, pushing the rest of the world to the periphery. It creates its own gravity. Standing here, looking across the expanse of polished oak, you feel a sense of unity. The wood connects everyone. If you tap your finger on the edge here, tap, tap, the vibration through the grain, across the diameter to the other side. We are all connected by this oak. Now the room begins to fill. But do not expect the raucous noise of a tavern or the chaotic clamor of a battlefield. The knights are arriving. They come from the shadows of the arched doorways, stepping into the light of the center. To the sound of their movement, it is heavy, yet respectful. You hear the rhythmic clump of heavy boots on the stone floor. You hear the soft, metallic chink of chainmail moving against itself, a sound like water flowing over pebbles. It is a subtle, fluid noise, a reminder of the iron skin they wear. They are large men, broad of shoulder and scarred by war. They carry the smell of the outside world with them, the scent of cold air, of horse sweat, of oiled leather. But as they approach the table, their demeanor changes. They slow down, they lower their voices. Watch them as they take their places. There is a hush in the room, a reverence that is usually reserved for cathedrals. They do not throw themselves into the chairs. They stand behind them, their hands resting on the high wooden backs. They look across the circle at one another. Look at their faces. There is Lancelot, his features sharp and noble, his eyes reflecting the firelight. There is Gawain, sturdy and strong, with a beard the color of autumn leaves. There is Percival, young and wide-eyed, seeing the world with a purity that hurts. And there, quietly taking his place among them, no higher and no lower, Arthur. They nod one another, small gestures of recognition, a tilt of the head, a faint smile. These are men who have fought against each other, men who have been rivals. But here, in the presence of the Round Table, those old feuds are left at the door. The circle binds them. Listen to the sounds of them sitting down. The scrape of chair legs against the stone. Scrurritch, the creak of leather belts and saddles. The heavy sigh of men allowing themselves to rest. They place their hands on the table. Gauntleted hands, scarred hands, hands that have taken life. Now they rest on the smooth, cool oak. The sound of metal gauntlets touching the wood is distinct. Clack, clack. It is the sound of weapons being set aside. The conversation that starts is low. It is a rumble of baritone voices, a texture of sound that fills the room without overwhelming it. They speak of the roads they have traveled, of the monsters they have slain, of the damsels they have saved. But they speak softly. The acoustics of the dome above catch their whispers and weave them together. It is a tapestry of brotherhood. There is no shouting here. To shout would be to break the spell. You can feel the tension leaving the room. The air, which might have crackled Grecian in a different setting, here becomes thick with peace. It feels safe. It feels like a storm has passed, and this is the calm that follows. The smell of roasting meat and spiced wine begins to drift in from the kitchens, mixing with the scent of the wood and the leather, creating an atmosphere of domestic comfort. But this is not just a dinner club. There is a purpose here, a steel spine beneath the velvet of the evening. The talking dies down. A silence spreads from Arthur, rippling out around the circle until the only sound is the crackle of the fire and the breathing of 100 men. Arthur stands. He does not need to shout. The silence amplifies his presence. He looks at his brothers. He speaks of a new way. He speaks of a kingdom where might does not make right. He speaks of using their strength not to take, but to oppress, but uplift. The oath is not a long, complicated legal document. It is simple, it is primal. To never do outrage nor murder, to always flee treason, to give mercy to him that asketh mercy, to give help to ladies, damsels, and gentlewomen, to never force ladies, damsels, and gentlewomen, to not take up battles in wrongful quarrels for love or for worldly goods. As he speaks, the words seem to settle into the wood of the table, soaking into the grain like the oil. The knights listen, and you can see the weight of the words landing on their shoulders. It is a heavy burden, this morality. It is heavier than their armor. It is heavier than their swords, but they accept it willingly. One by one, they draw their swords. Listen to this sound. It's the signature of the chapter. Shing, shing. 100 blades sliding from leather scabbards. The sound is a chorus of steel. They do not raise them in anger. They lay them on the table. The blades point inward, towards the center of the circle like the spokes of a wheel. The steel gleams against the dark honey wood. It is a sunburst of iron. The visual is striking. The instruments of death used to pledge a life of peace. They place their hands over the cross-guards of their swords. Skin on steel, steel on wood. They repeat the oath. Their voices join together, a deep that vibrates in your chest. It is a sound of absolute conviction. In that moment, the room feels impenetrable. The walls of the castle seem to grow thicker. The shadows in the corners seem less threatening. A profound sense of safety descends upon the hall. It is a moral safety. It is the feeling that there is order in the chaos, that there are stadions standing between the darkness and the light. If you were a peasant in the fields, or a merchant on the road, knowing that this room existed, that this men sat and swore these oaths, you would sleep deeper. You would walk taller. The ceremony ends. The swords are sheathed. Click. Snap. The sound is final. The pact is sealed. The knights look at each other with a new depth in their eyes. They are no longer just warriors. They are a fellowship. They are the fellowship of the oak. The table stands between them, a silent witness, holding their promises in its ancient grain. The fire pops, a log collapsing into embers, sending a flurry of sparks up into the dark. But here, a light is steady. The warmth is constant, and the whisper of the oath lingers in the air. Sweeter than the incense, stronger than the stone. Close your eyes and let the stone walls dissolve into mist. We are leaving the world of men, the world of hammered iron and chiseled rock, and entering a realm that is far older. Breathe in deeply. The air here is not the dry, dusty air of the training grounds. It is thick, cool, and laden with moisture. It fills your lungs with the scent of pine needles, of damp earth, and of ancient leaves that have been turning into soil for 1,000 years. We are riding into the deep forest. You are seated on a horse, but there is no urgency in this ride. The horse knows the way. Feel the gentle, swaying rhythm of its gait beneath you, rocking, rocking, like a cradle. Listen to the sound of the hooves. There is no sharp clack of metal on stone here. The ground is covered in a thick, luxurious carpet of moss. It is emerald green and velvet soft, swallowing every sound. Thump, thump. It is a muffled, heartbeat sound, a rhythm that syncs with your own pulse. The trees here are giants. They are ancient oaks and towering beeches with bark that looks like the wrinkled skin of sleeping elephants. Their branches twist and interlock high above, weaving a canopy so dense that the sky is hidden. The light that filters through is green and watery, a perpetual twilight. Mist clings to everything. It is not a passing fog, but a permanent resident of these woods. It coils around the tree trunks like pale, ghostly serpents. It beads on your cloak, turning the wool heavy and damp. Reach out a hand in your mind and brush against a passing branch. It is cold and wet. Droplets of water fall from the leaves. Plip, landing on the forest floor with the softest of whispers. The silence here is profound. It is not an empty silence, but a heavy, watchful one. The birds do not sing here. The wind does not howl. The forest holds its breath, watching the young king ride toward destiny. As you ride deeper, the scent changes. The earthy smell of the forest floor gives way to something sharper, cleaner. It is the smell of ozone, of cold stone, and of deep, standing water. The trees begin to thin, stepping back respectfully to reveal a clearing. And in this clearing lies the lake. Pull on the reins gently. Stop. Look out over the water. It is vast, stretching out into the gray mist until it merges with the sky. You cannot tell where the water ends and the air begins. It is a seamless transition of gray into gray. But the most striking thing is the stillness. The surface of the lake is a perfect mirror. There is not a breath of wind to disturb it. No ripples. It is a sheet of polished obsidian, dark and impenetrable. It reflects the ghostly shapes of the trees on the far bank with perfect, terrifying clarity. The air here feels different on your skin. It is colder, a chill that radiates up from the depths of the water. It is a stillness that commands respect. You feel as though you should not speak, as though even a whisper would shatter the glass perfection of the scene. The water looks heavy, like liquid metal. It hides its secrets well. Arthur dismounts. His boots sink into the soft, wet sand of the shore. There is no sound of crunching gravel, only the soft yielding of the earth. He walks to the water's edge. He stands there, a solitary figure against the vastness of the lake. He is not the warrior king here. He is a supplicant. He unbuckles his sword belt, the heavy, practical steel he has carried since his youth, and lays it on the sand. He is empty-handed. He waits, and the lake answers. Watch the center of the water. At first it is just a disturbance in the reflection, a warping of the mirror. Then the surface tension breaks. It is not a violent splash. It is a gentle parting, as if the water is opening a door. Something rises from the black depths. It is an arm, clothed in white samite, a fabric that shimmers with a pearlescent light, even in this gloom. The cloth clings to the arm, wet and heavy, yet it looks impossibly pure, untouched by the mud or the weeds of the bottom. The hand is pale, elegant, and strong. It rises straight up, pointing towards the gray heavens, and in its grasp is the sword. This is not a weapon of war. It is a piece of starlight caught in metal. This is Excalibur. Gaze upon it. The blade is long and slender, tapering to a point that seems to vanish into the air. It glows with a faint, blue inner light, a luminescence that pulses slowly, like a breathing thing. It does not look like it was forged by hammers and fire. It looks like it was grown, crystallized from the water and the moonlight. The crossguard is gold, but it is not the garish gold of a miser's treasury. It is the pale, soft gold of the morning sun. It is set with gems, sapphires the color of the deep ocean, and diamonds that look like frozen tears. They catch the meager light and amplify it, casting dancing patterns on the water's surface. But look closer. This is not a sword designed for butchery. It is too beautiful, too balanced. It is a symbol. It represents the razor's edge of justice. It represents the clarity of truth. To hold this sword is not to hold the power to kill, the power to cut through lies, to sever the bonds of tyranny, to bring order to chaos. It is a heavy burden disguised as a weapon. Arthur steps into a small skiff moored in the reeds. There are no oars. He sits, and the boat glides silently across the water, propelled by the will of the lake itself. The only sound is the soft hiss of the wood cutting through the water. He approaches the arm. The closer he gets, the brighter the sword glows, illuminating his face. You can see the awe in his eyes. He is young, and the weight of what is happening is settling upon him. He reaches out. Pause here. This is the moment where history pivots. His hand, warm and calloused, hovers over the hilt. The hilt is wrapped in silver wire, cool and intricate. He wraps his fingers around it. The sensation is instant. It is not cold like normal steel. It hums. A vibration travels from the sword up his arm and into his heart. It is a feeling of absolute clarity, the doubt that plagues every leader, the fear of the dark, the hesitation. It is all washed away by the blue light of the blade. He feels the lake's approval. He feels the ancient magic of the land accepting. He lifts the sword. The hand that held it releases its grip gently. As the sword leaves the water, droplets fall from the blade. Drip. Drip. They hit the surface of the moment, sound like bells ringing in the distance. The arm slowly, gracefully, descends bent into the depths. The white samite fades into the darkness of the water. The ripples spread out, wide, perfect circles that travel all the way to the shore, touching the roots of the trees. Har sits in the boat, the sword across his knees. The light from the blade pushes back the mist. He looks at it and he understands. This is not his property. It is alone. It is a trust. He is the guardian of the sword, just as he is the guardian of the land. The violence of the iron anvil is gone, replaced by the fluid, healing power of the water. Boat back to the shore. The forest seems less dark now. The path ahead is clear. The king has his symbol. The peace of the lake has entered his soul, a deep, abiding reservoir of calm that he will need in the fires to come. He sheathes the sword in a scabbard that smells of leather and magic, hiding the light, but keeping the warmth close to his side. The silence returns, but it is no longer waiting. It is satisfied. Leave the shores of the silver lake behind you now. Let the image of the water fade, replaced by the deep, enveloping embrace of the woods. We are traveling inland, away from the open sky, and into the green heart of the kingdom. This is not the dark, frightening forest of wolves and night terrors we spoke of before. This is the old forest. This is the lung of the world. It is a place of memory, where the trees have stood since the stars were young. Close your eyes and imagine the light. It is mid-afternoon here, but the sun does not rule this domain directly. High above, the canopy is a vast, living stained glass window. The leaves of the ancient oaks interlock like the fingers of 1,000 giants, creating a ceiling of vibrant, translucent green. The light that filters through is soft and golden, broken into shafts that dance and shift with the gentle breeze. It is what the poets call dappled light. It paints the forest floor in moving patterns of sun and shadow, a slow, hypnotic kaleidoscope that can trick the eye and soothe the mind. Breathe in. The air here is different. It is rich and heavy with oxygen. It tastes green. It smells of damp loam, of centuries of fallen leaves turning slowly back into earth. It smells of sweet sap bleeding from the bark of pine trees, sticky and fragrant. It smells of mushrooms pushing their way up through the soil, earthy and musk-like. Every breath you take here feels like a meal, nourishing and filling. Walk with me through this cathedral of wood. The ground beneath your feet is springy, cushioned by layers of pine needles and soft, yielding moss. It is quiet here. But it is not the silence emptiness. It is the silence of a library or a temple. It is a respectful hush. You can hear the tiny sounds of life if you listen closely. The snap of a twig under the weight of a squirrel, the rustle of a fern frond as a beetle scurries beneath it, the distant, mournful call of a wood pigeon, coo, coo. The trees are the true rulers here. These are massive. They're so wide that you could build a house within them. Their bark is deeply furrowed, like the face of a wise old man, rough to the touch and warm from the filtered sun. Run your hand over the surface. Feel the texture. It is gritty, solid, reassuring. Lichen clings to the wood in patches of pale green and crusty yellow, painting maps on the bark that only the wind can read. These trees have seen kingdoms and fall, and to them the passing of a human life is but the blink of an eye. In the center of this ancient grove, protected by a circle of hawthorn bushes, lies a dwelling. It is not a castle. It is not even a house in the way we understand it. It is a part of the forest itself. It is a shelter built into the roots of the greatest oak of them all. A hollow that has been shaped and tended by human hands, but never conquered. This is the hermitage of Merlin. Approach the entrance. There is no door of heavy timber or iron. Instead, a curtain of dried beads and heavy leather hangs across the opening, clicking softly in the breeze. Push it aside. The sound is like rain falling on dry leaves. Step inside. The transition is immediate. The air inside is wire and incredibly fragrant. You are hit by a wall of scents, a complex perfume of magic and nature. It smells of dried sage, pungent and dusty. It smells of sweet lavender, chloral. It smells bitter wormwood and sharp peppermint. Look up at the ceiling of the burrow. It is low, forcing you to stoop slightly. Hanging from the wooden beams are hundreds of bundles of drying herbs. They hang upside down, their leaves crinkled brown, their essence concentrated by the drying process. They look like a strange, inverted garden growing from the roof. The light inside is dim, provided by a small fire that burns in a stone circle in the center of the room, and by shafts of sunlight that pierce through small, hidden windows in the roots above. Dust motes dance in these beams of light, swirling in the air like tiny stars. The room is cluttered, but it is a clutter of intention. Every surface is covered. There are tables made of rough-hewn planks, piled high with treasures that would look like trash to the uninitiated, stones with holes worn through them by the river, feathers from owls and hawks, pieces of shed antler, jars of clear glass filled with colored liquids, amber, ruby, emerald. that catch the firelight and glow. And there are books, not the neat, uniform books of a modern library, chaotic tomes. They are bound in cracked leather that smells of tannins and old animal skin. Some are bound in wood, some in heavy cloth. They are stacked in leaning towers that threaten to topple, yet never do. Open one in your mind. The pages are parchment, made from sheepskin, thick and creamy and slightly textured. The ink is black and brown, faded by time, written in a hand that is spidery and sharp. There are diagrams of the stars, drawings of plants, maps of ley lines that run beneath the earth. The smell of old paper, that sweet, vanilla scent of decaying cellulose, is the bass note of this room. In the corner, sitting on a simple wooden stool, is the wizard. But forget the pointed hat and the starry robe. Merlin wears the colors of the forest. His tunic is the brown of the soil, his cloak is the gray of the mist. His beard is long, yes, but it is tangled with twits of moss, as if he has been sleeping in a hedge. He is not chanting. He is grinding something in a stone mortar. Grind. Scrape. Grind. The rhythmic sound of stone on stone is the heartbeat of the room. He is crushing dried berries, releasing a tart, sharp aroma into the air. Arthur sits across from him. The young king looks out of place here in his fine tunic and leather boots. He is fidgeting. His hands, used to gripping a sword or reins, are restless on his knees. He is used to action. He is used to the training yard, the shout of commands, the immediate cause and effect of the physical world. He has come here for a weapon, or a spell, or a strategy to defeat his enemies. But Merlin does not give him a sword. He does not give him a map. He stops his grinding. He places his hand flat on the table. The hand is old, the skin thin and spotted like a bird's egg, the veins prominent and blue. He looks at Arthur with eyes that are the color of a stormy sea. Listen, that is the instruction. Just one word. Listen. Arthur opens to speak, to ask what he should listen for, but Merlin holds up a finger. Silence. Begins. It's the hardest lesson a king can learn. It is the lesson of stillness. Arthur closes his eyes. At first he hears only his own frustration. He hears the blood rushing in his ears. He hears the shallow rhythm of his own impatient breathing. He hears the fire crackling. Snap. Pop. But slowly, as the minutes stretch into an hour, the layers of noise begin to peel away. The air in the room settles. The dust motes slow their dance. Arthur begins to hear the room. He hears the settling of the wood in the roof, a low groan as the great oak shifts its weight. He hears the wind moving through the chimney, a hollow, flute-like sound. He hears the scratching of a mouse behind the stack of books. Merlin speaks, his voice low and raspy, like dry leaves blowing over stone. He tells Arthur that a king who only commands is deaf. To rule the land, one must understand the land. The land is not a map. It is a living beast. It has a pulse. It has a breath. Merlin tells him to tend his mind down, through the floor of the hut, into the earth below. Imagine the roots of the tree, thick and woody, pushing through the soil. Imagine them going deep past the worms and the beetles, down into the cool, dark bedrock. Arthur's breathing slows. He deepens his inhalation. He smells the herbs more strongly now. The sharp scent of the sage seems to clear his mind. He feels the vibration of the earth. It is a low hum, a frequency that is felt in the bones rather than heard with the ears. It is the sound of water moving in deep underground aquifers. It is the sound of the earth turning. He begins to understand that his kingdom is not just the people and the castles. It is the soil that grows the wheat. It is the rain that fills the rivers. It is the wind that turns the mills. It is all connected, a vast, intricate web of life. If he pulls too hard on one strand, the whole web vibrates. If he ignores the rhythm of the seasons, the kingdom will starve. For the first time, the weight of the crown feels different. It is not a weight of authority, but a weight of responsibility. He feels small in the presence of the ancient oak, but he also feels connected. He is not separate from the land. He is of the land. The sun begins to set outside. The light in the room changes, turning from golden to a deep, rich amber. The shadows lengthen, stretching off the floor like dark fingers. The fire burns down to glowing embers, radiating a soft, pulsing heat. Arthur opens his eyes. He looks at Merlin. The old wizard is smiling, a small, barely their smile hidden in his beard. There is no need for words. The lesson has been received. The young king's hands are still now. They rest calmly on his knees. He looks different. The frenetic energy of the boy is gone, replaced by a grounded, quiet strength. He has learned that true power does not always roar. Sometimes true power whispers. He stands up. The leather of his boots creaks softly. Creak. He bows to the wizard, a bow of genuine respect. He turns to leave. As he steps back out through the beaded curtain, the cool evening air hits his face. It smells of dew and night-blooming flowers. The forest darker now, mysterious and deep. But he is not afraid. He walks back to his horse, his steps lighter, more deliberate. He moves with the rhythm of the forest now, not against it. He mounts his horse and turns its head towards Camelot. Behind him, in the hollow of the tree, Merlin returns to his mortar and pestle. Grind, scrape, grind. The sound fades into the distance, merging with the rustle of the leaves and the song of the coming night. Forest watches its king depart, and the ancient oaks settle bent to their slumber, content that the guardian has finally learned how to listen. The day is done. The labor of the stonemasons, the lessons of the wizard, and the decrees of the king have all faded into the velvet embrace of the night. Now turn our attention to the time between of the sun and the rising of the moon. We are not looking at the grand events of history here. We are looking at the quiet, intimate moments that make a castle a home. We are looking at the art of safety. Come with me to the high walls of Camelot. The wind has picked up, blowing from the dark forests and the distant sea. It is a cold wind, a wind that seeks to find every crack and crevice in the stone. But the walls hold. Stand here on the battlements and feel the solidity of the construction. The stone is cold under your hand, rough and formidable. It absorbs the wind's anger and offers nothing in return but silence. Look out into the darkness. The world beyond the walls is a void of black ink, a place of unknown shapes and rustling leaves. But here on the walkway there is light. The torches are spaced at regular intervals, iron brackets bolted deep into the granite. Watch the flames. They are not the polite candles of a dining table. These are rugged working fires. They are fed with pitch and thick animal fat, burning with a fierce orange determination. Listen to them. Whoosh, snap, hiss. The wind tries to snatch them away, tearing at the fire, pulling it into long, horizontal streamers of flame. But the fire holds on, it fights back. The light they cast is fitful and warm. It creates a pool of amber visibility against the blue-black night. In these pools of light, the guards walk their rounds. Listen of the night watch. It is the heartbeat of the castle's safety. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Heavy leather boots on stonevement. The sound is slow, measured, and deliberate. These men do not hurry. They have no need to run. They are the eyes that do not close. See the silhouette of a guard as he passes in front of a torch. He is wrapped in a thick, grey cloak of wools. It is almost waterproof. The fur collar is pulled up high around his ears. You can see the glint of the firelight on his helmet, a momentary flash of steel in the gloom. He pauses. He leans on his spear. He looks out to the night, scanning the tree lines, scanning the road. He sees nothing but the wind in the grass. He exhales, a cloud of white steam escaping into the air. He is cold, yes, yes, but he is content. He knows that behind him thousands of people are sleeping, because he is standing here. He is the barrier. Let us leave him to his vigil. Let us turn away from the wind and the cold, and pass through the heavy oak door that leads into the keep. As the doors is behind us, thud. The roar of the wind is instantly cut off. The silence that thus is sudden and startling. We are inside now. The air here is still. It is warmer, carrying the residual heat of the day tray trapped in the thick stones. Walk down the corridor. It is narrow, the ceiling arched low. The stone floor is covered in dried rushes, sweet-smelling grasses that cushion your step. Swish, swish, your feet make a soft, whispering sound. The walls here are not bare stone. They are dressed the finest insulation the kingdom can provide. Tapestries. Great hanging distinct sheets of wool that stretch from the ceiling almost to the floor. Reach out and brush your fingers against one as you pass. The wool is coarse, thick, and dry. It feels alive under your fingertips. These tapestries serve a dual purpose. They trap the warmth, keeping the draughts at bay, but they also trap the sound. They drink up the echoes. If you were to speak here, your voice would not bounce. It would be absorbed, softened, turned into a private confidence. The corridor feels cozy, like a burrow lined with fur. The scenes woven into the wool of gardens, of hunts, of mythical beasts sleeping in fields of flowers. In the flickering light of the wall sconces, the figures seem to move slightly. A deer lowers its head to graze. A unicorn shifts in the shadows. The castle is dreaming, even in its architecture. We arrive at a heavy wooden door. It is banded with iron, but the hinges are well oiled. Push it open gently. It swings inward without a creak, silent as a secret. We are in a sleeping chamber. It is dark, save for the glow of the hearth in the corner. The fire here has burned down to a bed of deep, pulsing embers. They are the color of garnets, glowing with a steady, intense heat that radiates across the room. Occasionally, a small flame licks up, casting a long, dancing though on the ceiling before settling back down into the ash. The air in the room is thick and somnolent. It smells of wood smoke, yes, but also of beeswax candles that have just been snuffed out. It smells of dried lavender packed into chests of linen. It smells of warm bodies and deep rest. Look at the bed. It is a massive piece of furniture, a room within a room. It is a four-poster bed, hung with heavy curtains of velvet. The velvet is a deep midnight blue, thick enough to block out any stray draft, any stray beam of moonlight. It creates a cocoon of total darkness. Pull back the curtains slightly and look inside. The bed is piled high with coverings. There are sheets of fine linen, cool and smooth against the skin. Above them are blankets of woven wool, scratchy and heavy, and on top of it all the furs. Imagine the weight of them. Wolf pelts, bear skins. They are heavy, pressing down on the sleeper, grounding them. It is a comforting weight, a physical reminder of safety. Sleep on these furs is to be held by the earth itself. The sleeper breathes in a slow, rhythmic cycle. Inhale. Exhale. It is the soundful abandonment to rest. There is no tension in the jaw, no furrow in the brow. The cold stone of the castle, the wind outside, the threats of the world, they are all miles away. Here, in this nest of velvet and fur, there is only warmth. The pillow is stuffed with down feathers, soft and yielding. The sleeper's head sinks into it, cradled and supported. The heat from the fire warms the air just enough to keep the nose cold, while the body remains toasty warm under the layers. It is the perfect balance for deep, restorative slumber. Now expand your awareness. Float up through the ceiling, through the stone floors above, and look down on the entire castle. It is a honeycomb of sleep. In the knight's quarters, the men of the Round Table are sleeping. Their armor is stacked neatly on stands, the metal gleaming dully in the dark. Their swords are sheathed. They dream of honor and the hunt. They sleep deeply, their bodies repairing the strains of the training yard. In the servants' wing, the scullery maids and the stable boys are sleeping on pallets of straw covered in rough wool. They are huddled together for warmth, a tangle of limbs and breathing. The kitchen fires are banked. The great pots are scrubbed and empty. The work is done. Even the animals are sleeping. In the stables, the horses are standing in their stalls, heads low, eyes closed, resting a hind leg. Their breath comes in slow, warm huffs. Snort. Huff. Huff. The smell of hay and horse musk is comforting and warm. In the kennels, the hounds are curled into tight balls, twitching their paws as they chase dream rabbits through dream forests. And high up in the central tower, one light still burns. Arthur is awake. He sits at a small table near the window. He is not working on maps or battle plans tonight. He is simply watching. He looks out of the narrow window, past the thick glass that distorts the view, out towards the darkness of his kingdom. He sees the torches on the walls. He sees the moonlight reflecting off the distant river. He is tired. You can see it in the slope of his shoulders, in the way he rubs his eyes. But he does not sleep yet. He is the father of this house. He bears the weight of their safety so that they do not have to. He listens to the silence of the castle. He listens to the wind. He listens to the peace he has built. It is a found feeling, this sense of collective safety. It is a palpable energy that fills the halls. It is the knowledge that the walls are strong, that the guards are awake, and that the king is watching. It allows the mind to let go completely. It allows the muscles to uncoil. The lantern on Arthur's table flickers. The oil is running low. He sighs, a sound that is lost in the large room. He stands up and walks to the window. He places his hand on the cold stone of the frame. He whispers a quiet prayer to the night, a wish for peace for the lowest servant and the highest knight. Then he turns. He blows out the lantern. A thin ribbon of gray smoke curls up into the darkness, smelling of burnt wick. The room plunges into shadow. The king moves to his own bed, the heavy furs waiting to receive him. Now the entire castle is dark. The only light comes from the stars above and the steadfast torches on the wall. The wind howls, scratching at the stones, demanding entry, but it is denied. Inside, the heart of Camelot beats slow and steady. Thump, thump, thump. Sleep descends like a fine, soft dust, covering everything in stillness. The dreams of the castle rise up, mingling the rafters, weaving a new legend from the peace of the night. You are safe here. You are protected. Let the darkness wrap around you like the heavy velvet curtains. Let the sound of the wind be your lullaby. The wheel has turned. The golden haze of high summer, that time of endless days and buzzing bees in the clor, is gone. It has retreated into memory, leaving behind a world that is stripping it bare. We have entered the season of the long shadows. We have entered the autumn of the rain. Step out onto the balcony with me. The air has changed completely. It no longer caresses your skin with the warmth of the sun. Now it bites. It is a sharp, crisp tooth that nips at your nose and ears. The wind has found a new voice. It no longer whispers through full, green boughs. Now it whistles through bare branches, a high sound like a flute played by a ghost. Woo, woo. It rattles the shutters in their frames. It creeps under the doors, searching the warmth of the hearth. Look at the forest that surrounds Camelot. It is on fire, but it is a cold fire. The leaves have turned from emerald to topaz, from topaz to russet, from russet to a deep brittle brown. They hang precariously on the limbs, waiting for the winds to fall. Watch one now. It detaches. It's down, slow and spiral, rocking back and forth on the air currents. It lands on the cobblestones of the courtyard. Listen to the sound of the season. It is a dry, papery sound. Scritch, scritch. It is the sound of thousands of dry leaves skittering across the stone, driven by the restless breeze. They gather in the corners, piling up like drifts of brown snow. Step on them in your mind. Crunch, they shatter into dust. It is the sound of endings. It is the sound of things returning to the earth. The sky above is no longer a limitless blue. It is a heavy, low ceiling of slate gray. Clouds move rapidly, driven by winds high in the atmosphere, tearing apart and reforming in shapes that look like fortresses and dragons. The light is different too. It is thinner, weaker. It casts long, melancholic shadows that stretch across the land early in the afternoon. The sun seems tired, struggling to climb above the horizon, eager to sink back down into the mist. The smell of the world has shifted. The sweet scent of flowers is a distant memory. Now the air smells wood smoke, thicker and more desperate than before. It smells of wet wool and damp stone, but mostly it smells of decay. It is a rich, earthy scent, the smell of fermentation, of apples rotting in the orchard grass, of wet sowing the summer's growth into next year's food. It is a heavy, somber perfume that clings to your clothes. Inside the castle, the mood has shifted with the season. The great hall is draftier now. The fires are built higher, consuming great logs that hiss and spit as the sap boils. But the warmth does not reach the corners. Shadows seem to pool in the edges of the room, darker and deeper than before. In his private solar, away from the eyes of the court, Arthur is alone. He sits in a high-backed chair of carved wood, positioned near the window so he can watch the grey light fade. He is not the boy who pulled the sword from the stone, eyes wide with wonder. He is not the young warrior who rode through the forest with the wind in his hair. Time has carved him, just as the wind carves the cliffs. Look at his face in the grey light. There are lines around his eyes, etched by years of squinting into the sun and squinting into the darkness of human nature. There is silver in his beard, strands of grey wire mixing with the gold. He sits very still. His hands rest on the arms of the chair. They are strong hands still, but the knuckles are swollen, aching with the coming rain. He reaches up slowly and touches his brow. He is wearing the crown. Focus on that object. The crown. It is made of gold, heavy and pure. It is set with rubies and sapphires that gleam in the twilight. To the people, it is a symbol of power, of glory, of divine right. But to the man wearing it, it is something else entirely. It is heavy. Imagine wearing a band of metal around your head for hours, days, years. It presses into the skin. It restricts the blood flow. It creates a dull, throbbing ache behind the eyes that never truly goes away. Arthur takes it off. He lifts the circle of gold from his head and sets it on the table. Clunk. The sound is heavy, dead. He runs his fingers over the red indentation it has left on his forehead. He sighs. It is a long, shuddering exhalation that seems to empty his lungs completely. The relief is physical, but the spiritual weight remains. He looks out at the falling leaves. He sees his own life mirrored in them. He built Camelot to be eternal, of right against the chaos of the world. But he sees now that nothing is eternal. The stone erodes, the wood rots, the iron rusts. Even the brotherhood of the round table, that perfect circle of unity, has developed cracks. He hears the whispers in the corridors. He sees the glances between Lancelot and Guinevere. He feels the distance growing between him and his knights. It is a profound, aching loneliness. A king can have no peers. He can have no true friends, for he holds the power of life and death over everyone he meets. He is an island in a sea of faces. He remembers the laughter of the early days, the easy camaraderie of the campfires. Now there is protocol. There is the bowing and the scraping. Everyone wants something from him. Justice, land, protection. He feels the burden of their safety. Every roof that leaks, every child that goes hungry, every injustice in the farthest corner of the realm, he feels it as a personal failure. The ideal of Camelot is a perfect shining thing, but the reality is messy and human. The weight of it is crushing him. He is tired. He is so very tired. He looks at the sword, Excalibur, resting in the corner. It is still beautiful, still sharp, but it is an instrument of the world. It solves problems of flesh and blood. It cannot cut away this that grows in his heart like ivy on a ruin. It cannot sever the connection to his own mortality. And so his mind turns to something else, something that is not of this heavy, dying earth. He closes his eyes and pictures it. The Grail, it is not a clear image. It is a feeling. It is a shimmer of light on the edge of vision. It is the memory of a dream he once had. He does not think of it as a golden cup to be put on a shelf. He thinks of it as a vessel of peace. He imagines drinking from it. He imagines cool, clear water that tastes of starlight. He imagines that if he could just find it, if he could just bring it here, it would heal the rot. It would stop the leaves from falling. It would turn the gray sky blue again. It would wash away the lines on his face and the ache in his heart. This is why he must send them out. It is a search for a trophy. It is a desperate search for meaning. He knows, deep down, that the sword is not enough. The law is not enough. The walls are not enough. There is a hole in the center of the world, a spiritual hunger that bread cannot fill. He stands up. The movement is stiff. He walks to the window and presses his hand against the cold glass. He looks out at the darkening courtyard. He sees a solitary figure walking through the wind, head bowed against the gale. Arthur feels a yearning so strong it almost hurts. He yearns for silence. Not the silence of an empty room, but the silence of the soul. He yearns for a place where the crown does not weigh anything, where there are no decisions to be made, no wars to be fought. He yearns for the Grail because he believes it is the only thing that can save him from his own melancholy. The wind howls louder, shaking the window frame. Rattle, rattle. The first drops of rain begin to strike the glass. Tap, tap. They run down the pane like tears. Arthur turns to the room. He looks at the crown sitting on the table. It glints in the dying firelight, cold and indifferent. It is waiting for him. It will always be waiting. He walks over to it. He picks it up. The gold is freezing against his fingertips. He lifts it and places it back on his head. The weight returns. The ache returns, but he is the king. He straightens his back. He smooths his tunic. He prepares to go down to the great hall, to smile, judge, while the autumn leaves swirl in the darkness outside, and the winter waits patiently at the gate. The roaring is over. The shouting has ceased. The clashing of steel against steel, which tore the sky apart only hours ago, has been swallowed by the earth. We are standing on the field of Camelot, but do not look for the glory of war here. Do not look for the banners snapping proudly in the wind. There is only the aftermath. There is only the great, heavy silence that follows the end of the world. Close your eyes and listen to the silence. It is not the peaceful quiet of the library or the forest. It is a hollow silence. It is the sound of a bell that has stopped ringing but still vibrates in the air. The wind is the only thing moving now. It blows across the cold mud, a low, mournful draught that weaves through the broken shafts of spears and the empty helmets lying in the grass. Whoo, whoo. It sounds like the earth itself is sighing, a long, exhaling breath of exhaustion. The ground is uneven, churned into a chaotic tapestry of mud and iron. The scent is overwhelming. It is the smell of copper, sharp and metallic, rising from the soil. It mixes with the smell of wet leather and the damp, cooling sweat of the fallen. There is no anger left here. The rage has drained away into the ground, leaving only a terrible stillness. Look at the sky. The sun is beginning to set, but it is not the golden sun of Camelot's height. It is a pale, watery disk, struggling to pierce through the veil of smoke and mist that hangs over the field. It casts a strange, grey light over the scene, turning the armor of the knights into dull, lifeless grey stones. They lie scattered like puppets whose strings have been cut, resting in the final brotherhood of sleep. And then a sound breaks the stillness. Flap, flap. It is the heavy beat of black wings. The ravens have come. They circle high above, black specks against the grey clouds. They are the only witnesses left. They land on the broken wheels of wagons and the hilts of swords stuck in the earth. Caw, caw. Their voices are grating, stripping away any pretense of nobility. They are the cleaners. They are the keepers of the dead. They hop through the mud with a jerky, inquisitive rhythm, their bead-like eyes reflecting the dying light. In the midst of this desolation, near the edge of the water, two figures remain. One stands, though he leans heavily against a broken stone. The other lies upon the ground. Arthur, he is no longer the Titan of the Round Table. He is a man. His armor, once the mirror of the sun, is shattered. The steel is rent. He breathes, but it is a shallow, ragged sound. Ho, ho. Each belabor, a struggle against the weight of his own mortality. He feels cold. The cold is creeping up his limbs, numbing the pain, turning the fire of his life into a bed of cooling embers. Except Bedivere, the last of his faithful. He speaks, but his voice is a whisper, dry as a fallen leaf. He points to the sword, Excalibur. It lies beside him, untouched by the rust and the ruin. It still glows. Even in this grey twilight, the blade hums with that faint, blue inner light we saw at the lake so many years ago. It is the only thing in this world that is still pure. It does not belong here anymore. It does not belong in a world of broken things. Arthur commands Bedivere to take it, to return it. Watch Bedivere. Tears track through the grime on his face, hot and clean. He does not want to let go. To throw the sword is to admit that the dream is over. He walks to the water's edge, his boots dragging in the sand. Scuff, scuff. He holds the sword. It is heavy in his hand, heavier than it has ever been. It feels like he is holding the soul of the kingdom. He looks at the water. The sky has shifted. The grey is deepening into a bruised purple. The horizon is bleeding into violet and indigo. The water of the estuary is dark, swirling with the tide, indifferent to the tragedy on the shore. It smells of salt and deep, cold currents. Bedivere hesitates. He looks at the hilt, the woven gold, the jewels that's the last of the light. It is too beautiful to lose. But he hears the wind. He hears the labored breathing of his king behind him. He knows he must. He grips the hilt tight. He swings his arm. Listen to the sound of the blade cutting the air. Whoosh! It is a beautiful, tragic arc. The sword spins, end over end. It catches the violet light of the sunset, flashing like a dying star. It flies out over the dark water, hanging in the air for a heartbeat that feels like an eternity. Gravity reaches for it. It begins to fall. But it does not hit the water with a splash. Just before it touches the surface, the water breaks. The arm rises. It is the same arm clothed in white samite, unchanged by the years. It rises from the deep, calm and steady. The hand opens. It catches the hilt. Snap. The sound is sharp-size. The grip is firm. There is no hesitation. The lady has reclaimed her gift. The arm brandishes the sword 3 times. Swish. Swish. A final salute. A final closing of the circle. Then, majestically, it draws the sword down. The blue light of the blade is swallowed by the black water. Down, down into the silence. The surface closes over it. The ripples spread out, smoothing away the evidence until the water is glass again. Bedivere returns to the king. Arthur smiles. It is a small, weak movement of his lips, but his eyes are peaceful. The burden is gone. The contract is fulfilled. Now look out to the water again. Through the mist, a shape emerges. It is a barge, long and black, drifting without sound, without oars. It moves like a shadow across the purple water. As it grinds softly against the shingle, scrunch, you can smell the change in the air. The smell of blood and mud fades. It is replaced by a scent that is sweet and heavy. It smells of funeral lilies. It smells of incense burning in a quiet chapel. It smells of apples, ripe and golden, from a land that knows no winter. On the deck of the barge sit 3 queens. They are dressed in black hoods that hide their faces, pools of shadow in the twilight. They do not speak. Their presence is a weight of sorrow and comfort combined. They are the Fates. They are the sisters of the night. Bedivere lifts his king. Arthur is light now. The heavy armor has been stripped away. Or perhaps his spirit has already begun to leave, lightening the load. Bedivere carries him into the water. The cold tide laps at his boots. Splash. He lays Arthur gently on the deck of the barge. The queens lean forward. One of them takes Arthur's head into her lap. Her hands are pale and cool. She strokes his forehead, wiping away the blood and the sweat. The touch is infinitely tender, like a mother soothing a fevered child. Arthur looks up at the darkening sky. The purple is fading to black. The first stars are appearing, cold and distant diamonds. He can no longer feel his hands or his feet. The pain has receded into a dull, throbbing background noise. He feels only the gentle rocking of the boat. Rocking. Rocking. He whispers to Bedivere. He tells him to comfort himself. He tells him that the old order changes, yielding place to new. His voice is so quiet now that it blends with the lapping of the water against the hull. The barge begins to move. It pulls away from the shore, drifting out into the mist. Bedivere stands on the beach, a solitary figure, watching until eyes burn. The boat becomes then a speck, then nothing. The king is gone. But listen closely to the wind one last time. It does not howl any more. It whispers. It moves through the reeds and the grass with a gentle, hushing sound. Hush. The earth is settling. The wound is closed, has fully come now. The battlefield is hidden in darkness. The broken swords, the fallen men, the mud, are covered by the charitable blanket the night. There is no more pain here. Only sleep. The story does not end in death. It ends in a pause. It ends with a boat drifting towards an island hidden in the mists of time, towards Avalon, where the apple trees are always in blossom and the wounds of the world are healed. The king is resting, the once and future king. He sleeps in the heart of the legend, waiting for the day when the world needs the sword again. But for now, there is only the water, the stars, and the silence. The shore is gone. Dark, blood-stained mud of Camelot, the cries of the ravens, the weeping of Bedivere, all of it has dissolved into the grey. We are no longer in the world of men. We are suspended in the space between heartbeats. We are moving through the great mist. Close your eyes and feel the motion. It is not the choppy, violent rocking of the sea, you know. It is a smooth, gliding sensation. The black barge moves as if it is sliding over oil, or perhaps over air. There is no friction. There is no sound of waves slapping against the hull. There is only a low, resonant hum, a vibration that travels up through the wood of the deck and into your bones. It is a sound that unravels tension, a sound that vibrates in the chest like a purring cat. The mist here is not cold. It does not bite like the autumn wind we felt in the castle. It is thick, yes, white and opaque, pressing in on all sides. You cannot see the water. You cannot see the stars. You cannot see your own hand if you stretch it out too far. But it is warm. It feels like steam rising from a bath, humid and gentle. It beads on the skin, soft and cleansing, washing away the grit of the battle, washing away the sweat of the fever. Time has no meaning here. Minutes stretch into hours, hours compress into seconds. There is only the drifting, drifting, drifting. The three queens in their dark hoods sit like statues, their presence a comforting weight. They do not speak, but their silence is not empty. It is a silence of protection. It is a silence that says, "Rest now." The journey is over. The burden is laid down. Arthur lies on the deck. His eyes are open, staring up into the shifting whiteness. But he is no longer looking for enemies. He is no longer scanning the horizon for threats. The pain in his body, the terrible, sharp agony of the wound, is changing. It is not gone, not yet, but it is becoming distant. It feels like an echo of a shout, fading into a canyon. He feels light, the heavy armor of responsibility, the weight of the crown, the crushing expectation of a kingdom. It is all floating away into the fog. And then the air changes. Breathe in. The smell of salt and iron is gone. In its place comes a scent so sweet, so rich, that it makes the head spin. It is the smell of apples. Not the sour of the wild hedgerows, but huge, golden apples, bursting with juice, warmed by an eternal sun. It is the smell of apple blossoms, floral and delicate, mixing with the scent of the fruit. It is the perfume of a harvest that never ends. The mist begins to thin. It does not blow away. It simply becomes transparent, turning from a wall of white into a veil of shimmering pearl. And through this veil, the island appears. Avalon, it rises from the water like a dream of the earth. It is not brown and gray like the dying world we left. It is green. A green so vibrant, so deep, that it looks like liquid emerald. The grass is tall and lush, rippling in a breeze that is as warm as breath. Can you hear it? The silence of the ocean is broken by song. It is the singing of birds, but birds such as you have never heard. Thrushes and nightingales, larks and linnets, their voices weaving a tapestry of melody that falls like silver rain. Tweet, trill, cheer up. There is no fear in their song. There is no warning. It is pure joy. The barge glides toward the shore. The water here is crystal clear, turquoise and aquamarine, revealing white sands beneath. The boat itself with a crunch, but with a soft sigh as it touches the mossy bank. The queens stand. They lift the king. But there is no struggle, no heave of effort. In this place, the body has no weight. He is as light as a dried leaf, as light as a prayer. Take him off the boat and onto the grass. Imagine the sensation of grass. It is cool and soft, yielding underfoot like the finest down pillow. There are no thorns here. There are no stones to bruise the heel. Flowers bloom everywhere, purple violets, white lilies, golden daffodils, growing together in a seasonless riot of color. They release their scent as the queens pass, a wave of lavender and honey rising to meet them. They carry him through an orchard of ancient trees. The boughs are heavy, bent low toward the ground, offering their fruit. Some branches hold white blossoms, delicate snow. Others hold ripe, red apples. Life and harvest, birth and maturity, existing in the same moment. The light filtering through the leaves is golden, a perpetual late afternoon glow that is warm on the face but never blinding. They reach a glade in the center of the island. Here, the earth has shaped itself into a natural bower, a shelter protected by the roots of a massive tree that seems to hold up the sky. In the center of this bower is a bed prepared for him. It is not a bed of wood and straw. It is a bed of living moss, deep and springy, covered with furs that are softer than clouds, and sheets woven from spider silk and moonlight. They lay him down. Arthur sinks into the softness. The moss conforms to his shape, cradling his weary bones. The pain is gone now, completely gone. The wound in his side has stopped bleeding. It is just a memory, a scar that tells a story of a life lived hard. His limbs feel heavy, but it is a good heaviness. It is the heaviness of a man who has walked 1,000 miles and has finally taken off his boots. One of the queens leans over him. She lowers her hood. Her face is ageless, terrifyingly beautiful, with eyes like the deep starry night. She places a hand on his forehead. Her skin is cool. Sleep, she whispers. The word is not a command. It is a gift. Arthur closes his eyes. Listen to his breathing. Inhale, slow and deep. Exhale, long and shuddering. The tension leaves his jaw. The furrow between his brows smooth out. His hands, which have gripped hilts and reins incept for so long finally uncurl. They rest open on the furs, empty and at peace. He is not dead. Do not mistake this stillness for death. Put your ear to the earth and you will hear it. Babum, babum. His heart beats in rhythm with the island. He is merely waiting. He is resting. He is gathering his strength. He is the seed in the winter earth, waiting for the spring. He is the sun at midnight, waiting for the dawn. He is the once and future king. As he sleeps, the world outside continues to turn. Kingdoms will rise and fall. Stone castles will crumble into dust. Names will be forgotten. Iron will rust. The noise of history will roar and shout and scream. But here, in the heart of Avalon, the silence holds. The mist closes in again around the edges of the island, sealing it away from the maps of men. It is a protective blanket, white and soft. The birdsong softens to a lullaby. The wind in the apple trees whispers a story that has no end. Everything is still. Everything is safe. The sword is in the water. The king is in the earth. The legend is in the air. And so, the mist rolls back over the lake, and the legends fade into the quiet dark. We slowly close the heavy cover of the book, smoothing the velvet one last time, and place it back on the shelf to rest. You are safe here. The fire has burned down to glowing embers, and the library is silent. There is nothing left to do. No battles to fight. Only deep, heavy rest. If you wish to find your way back to this chair, simply leave a quiet like, or subscribe to stay within these walls a little longer. Sleep now. The library watches over you. Good night, sweet dreams. Good night.